This is Loch Awe, the longest freshwater loch in Scotland and the third largest of our freshwater lochs.
It's 25 miles long and just over half a mile wide on average. It even comes with its own origin myth. Legend has it the loch was formed by the Queen of Winter, the Cailleach, a hag who formed the rocks and mountains and ruled the land from Halloween until spring. She came with a hammer and an attitude and controlled the weather. Sounds familiar. She's known throughout Scots mythology, but she's particularly well known in this area, for obvious reasons. She had a sacred spring up there on Ben Cruachan behind me, the only place her cattle could water, and each night she had to cover it with a stone, or the spring would overflow and drown the world. But one night, after working too hard on the cows or the landscape or the weather, she fell asleep. She woke to the sound of running water, which is never a good sign. The sacred spring had overflown, forming the River Awe and the loch below. Quickly she covered the spring, but in her shame she turned to stone. And she's still up there somewhere. Ben Cruachan is known as the Hollow Mountain.
When there's too much electricity, they use the power to pump water uphill to a dam. Then, in times of peak demand, they let it flow down to generate more power.
The power station was opened by the Queen in 1965, but it wasn't properly operational. Royal visits have to be organised fairly well in advance. Apparently they had to come up with some special effects in order for something to happen when she pressed the button.
You're wondering about what's over my shoulder though.
That is Kilchurn Castle, and it dates back to the 15th century. It was built for the Campbells of Glenorchy. They took the land over from Clan Gregor, and over the next 150 years or so extended their territory to become the Earls of Breadalbane. But the first Earl was a bit of a schemer, and he tried to play the Jacobites off against the Williamites. Then, in 1715, he joined the Earl of Mar's uprising. Obviously they lost, and he wound up under house arrest for the short time up until he died. During the 1745 uprising, the British government used it as a garrison, and the Campbells tried to sell it to them, but they were unsuccessful, and it fell into disrepair. It looks pretty spectacular as it is though. Some castles just look better as ruins.
Especially if you put one of these in the foreground.
It's not often you get the chance to photograph a Highland cow with a castle in the background, unless you come here. Now, the farmer's son in me wants to tell you all about Highland cows, even though we didn't actually have any Highland cows on the farm I grew up in. I'm more of a Galloway Belty man myself. But how could you not love these guys? They've been recorded here as far back as the 18th century. The first breed society was set up in 1884, and they come in a couple of different colours. They're pretty much perfectly bred for this environment. Seeing as how I'm filming in her environment, I think I better leave her to some grazing.
But just across the loch, I found another spectacular scene.
This was also built by some Campbells. This is St Conan's Kirk. It was built in a Norman and Romanesque style, and the architect, Walter Douglas Campbell, was a bit unconventional. But how old do you think it is? Go on, take a wild, impulsive stab in the dark. It was begun in 1881, and the first version was completed in 1886. Walter Douglas Campbell built a house for his mother, sister and himself on Conan Island. I think I've pronounced that properly, in the loch. He built this because his mum couldn't deal with the long carriage ride to church. The original version was extended between 1908 and 1914, the year the architect died. There are 3 chapels in the kirk: the Bruce Chapel with a wood and alabaster effigy of the Bruce himself, the St Bride's Chapel with a statue of the architect, and the St Conville's Chapel dedicated to the 4th Lord Blytheswood.
The Bruce Chapel is said to contain a fragment of the king's bone, taken from Dunfermline Abbey. To the northwest lies the Pass of Brander. Brander means ambush, and according to Barber's poem The Bruce, in 1308 Robert's army did just that, defeating the MacDougals who were fighting on behalf of Edward II.
Walter never married or left any heirs, so his sister Helen, an artist, made sure it was completed. It was finally consecrated in 1930. There are granite boulders from Ben Cruachan. The oak beams in the cloisters are thought to have come from the battleships HMS Caledonia and HMS Duke of Wellington. Owls, swallows, griffins, angels, and some kind of weird hippopotamus thing look out at you from the walls and the roof supports, and faces loom out from the stone. There are cherubs in stone, wood and glass. It's a big old mishmash of styles that doesn't follow any particular architectural doctrine, and it's all the better for it. It's testament to an eccentric character with a wide range of interests. These days it's owned by a trust, but the local Church of Scotland minister does a service here on the first Sunday of each month, and it must be quite something. I arrived to see sun bouncing off the hills over there and a rainbow that landed on Kilchurn Castle, and my iPhone can't do any of it justice. If you're in the area, you have to come here.
I'd barely scratched the surface round the top of the loch. The trouble with filming in Scotland at this time of year is that invariably you run out of daylight. That just means I have to go back. But with views like these, I'm not complaining.